So you have a supply, and you would welcome people who would like to get a copy of the DVD. You can show it to a lot of people. So take advantage of this opportunity. He's on a cross-country tour. You won't get this opportunity on many occasions. Take the opportunity to get a DVD today. And now back to Kevin.
Thank you, Barry. By the way, I don't copyright anything I do. Despite the rumor you might hear that I'm making all this money off homeless Indians, I don't actually charge for things like the film and that. So, finally, too, we're gathering tomorrow at 3 of the downtown churches in memory of the children who died, and we're going to be starting at St. James Anglican at 65 Church Street at 9:30, and then going to the United and Catholic churches after that. So please meet us. There are flyers about this over there. Now, you had your hand up, and somebody over here as well.
Thank you. I'm Marilyn Marshowitz. Before asking
Gave the same answer that they always give, which is the perpetrator died a few years ago, conveniently, and so we can't do anything about it. So I said to this cop, well, you know, how do you know they didn't have accomplices? You know, how do you know there wasn't a cover-up? There's no statute of limitation on murder in Canada the last time I checked. But it's the usual kind of collusion you get. Because this book was disappearing from the libraries across Canada. So it's hiddennolonger.com, and that's on some of the information here. All of the stuff in here is taken from survivors, so it actually comes out of the community. So the knowledge is there, but the reality is that people have been dissuaded for many years to talk about these things by their band council chiefs, by the government wing of the Native leadership, and also in the first of the Aboriginal Healing Fund money that came out. After 6 months or so after we did our first tribunal, the government started shelling out money to people. I call it the Aboriginal Hush Fund, because what you do is to get that money you have to agree never to sue the churches. The money was used selectively and politically to help Native chiefs who were favorable with the AFN and the government, and to punish people who weren't. So it was used in that way. But like what you say, it's a real problem, because on reservation especially, when a few families run things, people can be turned off very quickly. And in fact, a number of the people who gave testimony at our tribunal were thrown out of their homes. They lost education funding and that for having testified. So the reality is that the Native community is not united on this. There's a lot of many different nations, many different attitudes about something like, should the kids be brought home to a proper burial or left where they are? There isn't that common, position. But the reality is that now this is out there. Whenever I go into Native communities and speak, I often see the same things. The younger Aboriginal people are saying that. Why the hell didn't we know this stuff? Nobody ever told us. Now we don't have to be angry at one another. We can see what caused it, the laws and the system that caused it. Now we can put the anger where it's due, and not against one another. And I don't preside at it. I don't believe in the priestly role. I never did. But you could call it that. I mean, I still do funerals and all that stuff.
But you've broken away from day-to-day mainstream priestly endeavors.
We broke away from each other, yeah.
Okay. So you still live in Vancouver, right?
In Nanaimo, actually, but I work a lot in Vancouver.
Because it's horrible. And when I told her about your speaking today, she was offered a settlement, by the way, but it was such a paltry amount that she rejected it. It was ridiculous. And she had 4 brothers and sisters, some of which died on the streets in Vancouver, etc. Anyway, she's a lovely, lovely person. I love her. She's turned bitter in a sense, because when I mentioned you and I mentioned other Native or people leaders, she's just like completely turned off. She says, oh, well, where was he during why wasn't he speaking out during? And I'm telling you, he is speaking out. It's like she couldn't hear what I was trying to say, personally. She thinks everyone is like a traitor to the cause. And I just want to ask you something. Are you personally religious? So you don't have to answer that. I know that's a personal question. Do you believe in the concept of evil and good, good and evil?
Not in those terms, but I've seen it, so I believe in it.
Do you believe evil? Believe me, I'm not pontificating. I'm just interested in what people.
Well, philosophically, we can talk about that after, because it's kind of a big topic.
No, yeah.
But I don't want to. But generally, yeah, we should talk about it.
Because what you're describing, I mean, the church sounds like sounds like literally that they were in cahoots with what people would call the devil or evil spirits or rakshasas in Sanskrit or whatever. It is horrible. I know, Barry, you would reject this. I'm not going to monopolize.
I don't reject it. It's called imperialism.
Okay, so you're very good. But do you
Different
believe?
labels, same thing, right?
Can I just?
Bad is
ask-
bad.
Can I just ask this question? There are conspiracy theorists who believe that the world is controlled by a small group, like the Illuminati, okay, that have ruled from time immemorial, and that they're still controlling all the massive institutions that rule our society.
Well, if it was like that, the capitalist economy couldn't function because it's based on going at each other with razors. I mean, the economic imperative is not a small elite cooperating. It's quite the opposite.
No, but the
It's
implication is they're manipulating and pulling the strings
Right.
of all these corporations and the church and, you know,
So anyway, we can debate that
okay,
for sure.
all right.
Could I just introduce members of the Friends and Relatives that disappeared in Toronto, if you want to stand up?
In mining, 60% of the mining corporations are Canadian, and they're active in Central America, in South America, in Indonesia, in Africa, all over the place. So it's important to keep that in mind.
And I should mention, Camco is one of the largest uranium companies in the world.
Which one?
Camco, C-A-M-E-C-O, it operates in Saskatchewan. They're the ones doing in-situ uranium mining in the Black Hills in South Dakota, where the cancer rate is 500 times the national average due to radiation leakage. They're murdering Native people before the depleted uranium they produce is used by the U.S. military overseas. It's used first on Native people here. And so this is, we're starting actually to look at that. We're going to document Camco's activities as part of our tribunal as an example of genocide today.
So, yes, please.
Hi, outside of Canada and the United States, is there residential schools anywhere else?
Not only were there residential schools elsewhere, but they're still operating. One of the groups in our network works with the Aka people in northern Thailand. And the Baptist Church in America and the Rotary Club fund residential schools among the Aka. And I've looked at the statements of these groups, and they make things that sound like right out of the residential schools 100 years ago. They say, you know, that we have to save these heathens from themselves. We've got to turn them into good Christians. They're not allowed to speak their language. They're put in these sweatshops, really. And as a result of that, the Aka children are the main, are used primarily in the sex tours that come from Japan. And we've established a link between Vancouver and the Vancouver Club, which is kind of like the elite club, and what's going on in Bangkok and Thailand there's an international child trafficking network protected and, you know, there's government and other collusion. Well, being Irish is a favorite topic of mine, but
Give it to him.
the Queen and the Pope are the main fiduciary officers here. If you're going to do a crime, you know, a war crimes trial, they're the first to be called. But specifically, there was an incident that William Coombs observed, and he was a friend of ours in our network, and he died in hospital just before after I left for England. He claims that when he was in the Kamloops residential school run by the Catholic Church, October 1964, the Queen and Prince Philip show up. And I checked the records, and they were in Canada during an 11-day period then. He claims that they went down, they had a picnic for all the kids, and they went down to a place called Dead Man's Creek and had a picnic there, and then they took 7 boys and 3 girls with them. And those kids were never seen again. They were from the area, and no one for the rest of their lives ever saw any of these 10 kids. And we wrote to the Buckingham Palace to ask about that, didn't hear anything back. We are going to be subpoenaing her to come and answer information on the whereabouts of those missing children. William was going to come and give testimony about that in London. He was in good shape. He had a bad drinking problem, but he was actually on the mend. I was told that he was asked to, Native Health Services in the downtown east side called an ambulance for him. His partner May says he wasn't in any particularly dire straits. He went to the hospital. He died the next morning in the hospital. This was St. Paul's Hospital, Catholic-run hospital. In the residential schools in Squamish, they used to bring the bodies there and issue fake death certificates for them in the same hospital. So.
Outstanding institution. The sister in the back corner.
I just want to say thank you to Kevin.